All right, we're back with another episode of Talking Preps. We're on week 2 of Talking Preps. I think it's week 32 of the basketball season. So they've been going for a while. How you doing, Miss Chelsea?
I'm good. How are y'all?
I'm doing well. Getting close to college decision time. Are you getting nervous?
I wouldn't say nervous, but I'm ready to make my decision.
It's Chapel Hill, it's State, it's Georgia, it's South Carolina, it's College of Charleston. I mean, they're all great schools.
ECU and Tennessee too, but I wouldn't put them in my top 5.
Your predecessor, Kenzie's at Tennessee right now. That'd be a cool school.
I know she likes it there though.
She does like it there. Alex, any surprises from the past week before we hit the button up east? Any big surprises?
No.
You see what kind of mood the contrarian's in. We'll get started.
Man, a few words today, I see.
We'll get started on the backside. I'm just shocked that Alex had nothing to say. But we got some talking points since Alex doesn't have any. Rick, give me your reaction from that big basketball game we saw on Saturday, Myers Park and Carmel Christian.
Personally, I think it was the game of the year. You had the number one team going against the number one private team. It was a sold-out capacity crowd, and I think it lived up to the hype. And it was great for high school basketball, and it was great for the city of Charlotte.
Yeah, well, after the game, Steve Lytle caught up with Joe Badgett and Jay Mustaf, who was one of the heroes of the game. Let's hear what they have to say.
It was the biggest game in North Carolina, really. Number one public school, number one private school. Well, that's what everybody's been saying. Everybody's talking about this game since the summer. So they brought their student section. We had ours. It was, and then everybody else, all the fans, all the parents, everybody came out to come see the game. So it was a great atmosphere.
Tonight's game was kind of a half-court game for a lot of it. It was kind of physical, wasn't it? Can you talk about that?
We knew coming in it was gonna be a physical game. We had to fight the whole game. Even when we got down, we had to be resilient, push through, and just keep fighting. They fought, we had to fight, and we just came out on top.
I'm assuming that you like the idea of playing some of the public schools, getting a chance for fans.
Yeah, I love it. We don't get to play each other often, and then when you can take events like this and go public versus private, it does a lot for the community because you get a lot of the students, like Myers Park student section and Carmel student section, those kids have been going at it all week long, and so to have that kind of atmosphere in this place, it's a big deal, and I think every game today in the event showed the enthusiasm and that the community and the fans, that basketball fans, want to see public schools versus private schools. And I hope we can continue to do it with that kind of format because I think it was a great thing today.
Randall, this game was sold out 3 hours before. Well, the event was sold out 3 hours before the finale came up. So the last 3 games were played in front of standing room only crowds. What was it like in there?
It was insane. It was a jam-packed gym, and to have signs that it was sold out and people trying to still buy tickets hours before the game was played. It's not something that you see often, and the game lived up to the hype. I know a lot of people probably expected a high-octane offensive game, and I mentioned in the chat I felt like this game was going to be a Houston versus Virginia high school level basketball game. I figured it would be low scoring. I thought it would be nip and tuck. I think basketball is a game of runs, so I expected, both teams to go on runs. And, I think, the X factor for me for Myers Park was going to be Sadiq White, and the X factor for Carmel Christian was going to be Kamani Wirtz. And, early on, Kamani hit a lot of big threes that really helped separate them, give them a little bit of a cushion early on. And then I think down the stretch, the biggest thing for them is, there's a 4-minute stretch where they just dug in and got stops. And, hats off to the Carmel Christian Cougars. They did a great job yesterday of protecting their home court.
Yeah, that was one of the best basketball games I've seen in quite some time. One of the best atmospheres. It was, and given that we had just seen a great game a week ago with Chambers and North Meck, this game was it met all the expectations. It's a great game to see. I want to flip on the girls' side, Gary and Randall. Is Lake Norman beginning to separate in the West?
Yes,
Great
they
game.
are, and it's starting to get scary because for them, we mentioned it last week. It's like, they're showing up with this do your job mentality, and you have these different players who are stepping up. And this week it was Kelsey Ryan for them, who had 17 points and 15 rebounds for the freshman, and it's been super fun to watch. They're just a team that's continuing to get better, kind of game by game, week by week, and it doesn't look like they care about who gets the credit. They just care about getting the win.
What do you think, Gary?
I think they're extremely confident at this point in the season. I don't think that it's not that they can't be beaten. I think there's some teams that have enough talent that can beat them, but right now they're playing with such great confidence. And like Randall said, they all know their roles, but one night one of those girls might not have the game that we expect, and that could be the time that somebody could slip in and beat them. But I only see maybe two teams in the West that can play with them, and that would be Catholic and North Mecklenburg.
Yeah, but North Meck was up on them, and Kirsten hit a spinning whirling dervish game winner at home. So yeah, definitely could do that. And before I ask about the East, Alex, I know you want to comment a little bit about the first topic, Marsh Park Common Christian.
Can anyone confirm for sure whether the interview with Joe Badgett was done before the game or after the game? The reason I ask that question is I hope everyone noticed how Coach Badgett's suit jacket lapel was perfectly pressed and still in place and still looked absolutely sharp, as was his collar and tie perfectly in place after the game. Now, I think we all know that Joe Badgett is the ultimate Mr. Esquire in terms of coaches' wardrobes. He is Mr. GQ.
Absolutely.
Now, just looking at him in that video, I have to ask, was that before the game or that was after the game? Joe Badgett is reminding us of times that I don't think we ever saw in college or professional basketball. Did we ever see coaches who look that sharp, let alone supposedly after the game? My goodness, praise be Joe Badgett.
Absolutely. He's the most well-dressed coach in high school basketball.
Yeah,
bar none. Bar none.
I don't think Joe got the message that coaches now are wearing the school pullovers, the NBA, college, high school. I think Joe has invested too much in his wardrobe.
100%. That is 100% accurate, and he's saving all his polos for the golf course.
Yeah, well, Joe's also an investment banker by day, so I'm sure those suits get some use during the daytime. But
to see Coach Badgett in a suit and tie, that when he's not, it's unusual.
Yeah, it's a little jarring. So Chelsea and Alex, who in the East can challenge a Lake Norman team if they were to get to the state championship game?
Well, I think we have a handful of teams, and as we talk about all the time, it's all about matchups. It could be a Panther Creek, it could be a Millbrook, it could be a Hillside. I mean, all pretty even, and it's been back and forth and nip and tuck all season long. One's beating the other. It just is going to come down to the matchup, and it's tough to discuss right now because what I would have to say would be totally different if we talk Panther Creek and Lake Norman or North Mecklenburg or Charlotte Catholic. That's going to be totally different from talking Millbrook versus any of those teams. It's going to be totally different talking. I just lost my train of thought. Going to be totally different talking Hillside and any of those teams. So it's just really going to come down to who it is.
Chelsea, you agree with those teams he's mentioned is one that could come out?
I do. I also want to add another 4A team that I've seen, Apex Friendship. Now, I haven't seen Lake Norman play, but I think along the lines of like Millbrook and Panther Creek and the other teams Alex named to like throw Apex Friendship in there.
Okay, Apex Friendship. All right, Randall, area girls, we talk a lot about the stars, the Kirsten Lewis Williams of the world. Nevaeh Farmer is going to be on the show later on. should we be what girls players should we be talking about more often that aren't on that marquee?
I think there are a couple. I think Grayson Golf at Charlotte Catholic has done a really good job this year.
Walking double-double.
Yeah, walking double-double. She's doing a really good job of getting on the boards. And, early on in the season, it was a conversation that we had just about being a better rebounder. She's always a kid that plays hard and gets after it. And she's done a great job for Charlotte Catholic in that sense. I think Samantha Sheehan is probably another kid over at Lake Norman who doesn't, get a lot of credit. I mean, obviously.
Well, you only had up for Miss Basketball last week.
Yeah, I mean, but even as a sophomore, that's still quite an honor. But she's been shooting the lights out of the basketball lately, and she's been doing a really good job. And I think last but not least would be Jaren Truesdale. She was the MVP for Myers Park yesterday in the She's Got Game Classic. She had 24 points in the game this week. Her offensive game has really started to blossom, and she's really been keeping the ship afloat with Mia Zaris being out so far this season.
Yeah, shout out to Barbara Nelson in Myers Park. They got a big win from over State Power yesterday. John Marshall out of Virginia. She's doing her thing again, even without her star player. Grandma Goat is still can coach quite a bit.
Watch it, Langston.
I can't wait. I did not call her grandma. Me and Derek call her grandma.
I keep telling you, you better stop it.
Me and Barb like the same age. I can't. I mean, if I'm calling her grandma, she call me grandpa.
I went to the South Myers Park game on Tuesday night. As soon as I walked in the door, Barb grabbed me and said, "Were you the one that called me grandma on the show?" But one person Randall forgot would be the kid at Mallet Creek, Ellie Stone.
Yeah,
she's having an outstanding.
Well, I don't think she's flying under anybody's radar now, Gary. I don't think she's thinking. I
call her LeBron. She's really good. She's really good. I tell you, Anastasia Sinclair, somebody at South Mecca, I think is kind of flying under the radar. Is having a great season. Rick, talk about boys side. Give me a couple of names on the boys side, guys who aren't on the marquee, but that we should be talking about more often. Like say maybe Parker, Peter. I'm forgetting his South Mecca.
Peter Moy.
Peter Moy in South Mecca, after 22 a night.
Yeah, he's an elite level shooter. I've seen him at the travel ball level, but he can fill it up from all three levels. He's one on the list. Another one that I really do like is 6'2" unsigned senior Jaden Thompson from Central Cabarrus. He's averaging right at 20 points a game, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, and 5 steals. And they're 17-0, 47-1 in the last 2 years.
He sound like Weddington from a year ago.
He's one that just does it all. He's super athletic.
Yeah.
He sort of handles the point guard, shooting guard position on a combo guard, but he's one that should get a lot of attention that I don't think is getting the attention he deserves. Another person over at Olympic is 6'5" junior. And that is Cameron Taylor. He's averaging I think he is averaging a double-double. He's averaging right at 18 points a game, and close to 14 rebounds. He's having a great year for Olympic. He's one of these guys that can just do it all. He's thin, but he's athletic, very fluid on the floor. And he's been very instrumental in the success of Olympic this current year. Also, I like Nick Dorn. 6'7" at Chambers, 6'7", the younger brother of Torrin Dorn. I don't think he's getting the attention he deserves. And I've said this numerous times. I'm beating a dead horse, but Chambers has played one of the most toughest non-conference schedules out there. It seems like every game they play is a must-win game. It's a tough game. And he's had some very good games as well. And, of course, this last weekend, we had a chance to see Jordan Neville, the 5'11" shooting point guard for East Mac. He had 42 points on Friday night, and he came back and had 30 points on Cannon on Saturday. And he was tremendous. And those are some of the guys that I think deserves more attention than what they're getting.
I want to add one more name to that list. I want Randall to pay close attention. Ned Hull, Charlotte Latin.
Well, I didn't mention Ned because I knew Randall would mention him.
Ned Hull, Randall School, having a great year. Had a big night last week against Providence Days. Had several 30-point games. And I didn't see you put out your 30-piece tweet when he had the 30s, Randall. So
I didn't. I gotten away from that. I hadn't.
You got to put up.
I haven't gotten the 30 ball tweets out.
30 piece tweets. Alex, the NCHSA is going to take a vote on adding a 5A class. We know this failed the last time they did it. If it passes, which I think it will this time, I know it's going to help football, but will it help or hurt basketball?
Negligible impact. Basketball is one of the NCHSAA program sports really not predicated on numbers. You can go and find in a pool of 500 to 600 kids, just like you can in a pool of 2,000 to 3,000 kids, 10 to 12 student athletes who can play basketball pretty well. So it's really going to be negligible when it comes down to it. If you can go point, wing, and post and be in position, you're going to be all right. So really, in the grand scheme, a 5A class and its impact on basketball will be negligible.
Gary.
I agree with Alex. It doesn't take a lot of great players to be a good basketball program. If you got 2 or 3 very good kids and you can surround them with some coachable kids that are fairly athletic, maybe not college bound, but just good athletes, you can have a good basketball program. It takes a whole lot of numbers to have a good football program.
All right. Randall, the private school state finals are in February, end of February, which is 3 weeks ahead of the public school state finals. Sometimes you almost forget about the private school by the time the public school comes around. Should the NCISAA push their season back to make it fit more closely with the public schools?
They absolutely should. I think it's crazy to be. I couldn't imagine being done with my high school basketball season in the middle of February. And they are oftentimes an afterthought because so many weeks go by before you get to the public school state final. So I think that they should definitely push it back just to give the players a chance to get the recognition that they deserve as far as playing in the state final. And it holds just as much credence as it does for the public schools, but it is oftentimes forgot about because they play it so early.
Alex Bass.
Absolutely not. And it's not that they shouldn't, it's because they can't. What you have to realize is the North Carolina Independent School Athletic Association dynamics are vastly different from the NCHSAA in that a 1A school in the NCISAA could be fewer than 100 students in grades 9 through 12. And then you go all the way up to NCISAA 4A in upper school or grades 9 through 12 at the 4A level there could be in the 600 students range in grades 9 to 12. So what you're dealing with there is the simple reality that NCISAA schools are more dependent on their student bodies as multiple student athletes. So you start getting into the inevitable overlap season realities, and NCISAA schools will be in much more formidable challenges for fielding teams in all their sports. So it's not a matter of they shouldn't, but logistically they can.
All right, cool. Well, we're going to move ahead. I know my script is all messed up. We're going to move ahead to Randall's Rock Stars. Randall's picking out the high school girls basketball players of the week. It's our first week doing this. We did it in football season with Grice and Griner, and Rick and Randall are going to do it this year for basketball. So here's Randall's Rock Stars.
I'm so excited to be here and talk about some of the great lady athletes that we had this week. And we're going to start off with Elle Stone from Mallard Creek. She had a great week. A young player that really puts the ball in the basket and is playing really, really good basketball. She had 21 points to go along with 11 steals and 7 rebounds this week versus Chambers. And she was really, really good. Jaren Truesdale on Friday night for Myers Park had an outstanding game scoring the basketball. She led the Mustangs with 24 points. Kelsey Ryan, the young freshman from Lake Norman, just adding more firepower to an already loaded Lake Norman team. She led them with 17 points and 15 rebounds. And rounding out our first 4, Kiara Dixon Booker at North Meck had a double-double in both of their teams' wins this week versus West Charlotte and Hopewell. But my rock star of the week also from North Mech, had her first career triple-double this week versus West Charlotte with 30 points, 12 steals, 10 rebounds, and 6 assists. Nevaeh Farmar, and she's joining us right now. Nevaeh, how are you doing?
Hello, and I'm doing good.
Good. Well, you guys have gotten off to a really, really good start, and I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about like being the leader at North Mech and being there for a while now, and now adding some younger talent. Like, how do you feel like your leadership style and your leadership has done so far this year?
I just have to keep us with the same mentality every game. We just have to come consistent. We just have to just dogging us every game. Really, that's all it really takes.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So you guys had a really good week this week. Two big wins for you guys. And I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about, your first career triple-double. Like, when you're out there in the flow of the game, like, when does it click for you that, hey, this could be, one of those special nights?
Well, myself going is really my defense. So, like, once I know, like, my defense is starting to go, that's when I know it's going to be a fun night for me.
So you use it. So that's good. Like, I think a lot of players don't necessarily know what gets them started. And, for a lot of young players, like, to hear that, a player like you gets it started on the defensive end, and that's how you impact the game, not necessarily with your scoring. I think that's really important for younger players.
Oh, yes, definitely. Defense, that's what they want. Yes. That wins game.
There you go. Yes, it does. So coming up this week, another big week as you roll into conference play, when you get on this Tuesday, Friday night slate, the season kind of, can start to drag. How do you keep, not only yourself, but also your teammates focused and motivated, with the common goal in mind?
Well, the common goal, is to keep going far. So we know that consistency, you have to have it. Like, one little day off can cause a lot of problems. So you just really have to stay consistent, especially in our conference. Like, one little mess up, you can lose a game because our conference is so good. So consistency is really the key for us.
There you go. All right, my last question before I let you go. What's the last song you're listening to before you get on the floor for a big game?
I'm gonna have to go with that Rod Wave, man. I love Rod Wave. Any song from Rod Wave, I'm gonna play it.
There you go. Awesome. Well, Nevaeh, thank you so much for joining us. It was great talking to you, and good luck the rest of the season.
Okay, thank you. Have a good day.
All righty. You too. If you want to be one of Randall's rock stars, reach out to me on Instagram or Twitter at @the1RC. I look forward to hearing from you and seeing you guys next week.
All right.
This game. We get ready to have a game show. Where's Randy?
I'm right here.
I can't see you.
Why can't you see me?
I don't know.
All right, hold on. You can't, Chelsea?
Log got it.
I'll tell you why you can't see him.
Live TV.
He's gone into hiding to avoid another L.
He's got a really good player coming on to take him on. John Lash for shot. There he is. Randall, you there now?
Yeah. I don't know why you couldn't see me.
Couldn't see you. Hello, John Lash. How are you, sir?
How we doing? I'm good.
Doing well. So tell us about the season. You are enjoying one of the better seasons in the area, averaging 25 points and 14 rebounds every night. How do you do that?
Yes, sir. It's been a good season so far. We have a really young team, so just trying to build off that. We have a big week coming up, but it's been falling and going my way. But like I said, definitely with Micah Gilbert back too, it should be fun to see what happens.
Yeah, Brandon, what makes this young man so effective?
Before I get started with that, John, I really like your shirt. I train a really good player that plays there right now, so I like that you're supporting, buddy.
Go Prairie Wolves.
Man, Langston, the kid just has a motor that's unmatched. And I was telling somebody today, they were talking about like how they could be a better basketball player. And I was just telling them, like, rebounding in basketball is all about want to. Right. And I said, you don't have to necessarily be the biggest or strongest, but you just got to want the basketball more than everybody else on the floor. And I actually used John as the example because, he's got good size. He's a strong kid, but you won't find anybody that hits the boards in high school basketball harder than him. And every time a shot goes up, it's literally his rebound. And I think that's what makes him really special. I think, Nevaeh talked about how she gets going on the defensive end. I think John gets started just by being aggressive and going to rebound the basketball, and then his offensive game kind of just comes along with it.
Now, John, I know you're a two-sport athlete. You also play baseball. Are you a pitcher?
I am. Yes, sir. I'm a left-handed pitcher, and I play first base as well.
And didn't you just have like Tommy John surgery?
Correct. Yes, sir. I had Tommy John at the very end of June, so I had a quick turnaround and came right onto the basketball court.
So wait, you have major surgery in June, and you out here killing folks in November?
It was a pretty quick turnaround. I think I had a shot on the gun a couple times maybe, but I went straight into games for the most part once I got released to play.
That's amazing. So which is your first sport, but which is your first love?
Yeah, it's when I was younger, basketball was definitely my first love. All my brothers played it and they still play it. And, baseball kind of came on to me a little bit later when I started to grow into my body a little bit more. And so right now, I love them both the same from the bottom of my heart. And I'll play them, both through high school and then just, see where which one takes me farther.
You sound like a guy I used to coach over there, Judd Udemark, who had said the same thing till baseball looked really like he might have a real serious avenue to play baseball. I think you may run into the same issues. What do you think, Randall? This kid gonna be a college baseball player?
Well, you talk about 6'8", left-handed pitcher that throws the ball extremely
hard. A lot of those.
Yeah, when it's not a lot of those, and that ball starts coming down at you. Yeah, so I mess with him a lot of times just to, about just imagine if you really took basketball seriously, and I joke around with him at that. But the fact that he's continued to be a two-sport star at Charlotte Christian really just says a lot about him, because it would have been really easy, with the offers he has in baseball already, to just be like, you know what, I'm going to put the basketball down. I'm just going to focus on baseball. But that's something that he's been adamant that he didn't want to do, and he wants to finish this thing out. And, I definitely tip my hat off to him for that.
All right. Well, John, we had this thing we do called a game show, and it's multiple choice. And I'll put the questions on the screen. And Randall got a tie last week.
Yeah, because it was a bunch of three-point questions. So I'm guessing with you on here, John, it's going to be a bunch of rebounding questions this week.
Absolutely.
Not quite similar, but not quite. So, John, your only thing you have to do is just beat Randall, give him a losing record for the season. We're going to be 0-1-1 when you guys get there. So I'm contractually obligated to play his little theme music. Then we get back. Alex is going to read the first question.
Awesome.
I'm Randall Clark. I am not Sam Griner. You will not beat me on the game show.
Mr. Bass.
All right, let's get going in style here. Since we got a two-sport star here.
Gosh.
We got a two-sport star here in Mr. Lash. So that being said, let's talk some baseball. So, John, who led Major League Baseball in stolen bases in the 2022 season? A, Jorge Mateo of Baltimore, B, Cedric Mullins of Baltimore, C, John Berti of Miami, or D, Tommy Edman of St. Louis?
I'm going D, Tommy Edman, St. Louis.
Tommy Edman. What you got, Randall?
I got D, Tommy Edman, too.
The answer is C, John Berti, and we are still tied at 0.
Come on, Randall.
John, I'm a little.
No, I know Edman steals a lot of bases for the Cardinals, so I thought he was the one.
I'm a little disappointed, John. Come on, Chelsea.
All right, sticking with baseball. Aaron Judge led the majors in RBIs, but which player was tied with him for the regular season crown? A, Jose Ramirez, Cleveland. B, Pete Alonso, New York Mets. C, Matt Olson, Atlanta. Or D, Freddie Freeman, LA Dodgers.
Randall.
I'm gonna go with my guy, my favorite first baseman in baseball. I'm gonna go with B, Pete Alonso.
All right, what you got, John?
I'm gonna go D, Freddie Freeman.
The answer is Pete Alonso, and you were down 1-0 to Randall. Look at him grinning, John. Look at him grinning. This is just bad. You gotta make a rally.
When they try to rig the game to make sure you lose, John, that's when you know you're really good.
It's not rigged. How is it?
This is a basketball show. You're asking me baseball questions. What are you talking about?
How is it rigged? How is it rigged? Let's go, Alex.
Facebook is the #1 social media app with nearly 3 billion users. Which one is second most popular? A, WeChat, B, YouTube, C, WhatsApp, D, Instagram.
Okay, John, let's get back on the good track.
I'll keep it simple with Instagram. D.
All right, Randall.
I'm going B, YouTube.
John, you are down 2-0, my friend. You got to make a rally. YouTube has 2.52 billion users. Facebook and YouTube dominate the market. All right, number 4 is wrong thing. It's Chelsea, and about to put up your video again, John. Not the question. John, I know you got this one, John. I know you got this one. Come on, Chelsea.
All right. This song spent the most time at the top of the Billboard charts in 2022. Name it. A, As It Was, Harry Styles. B, Anti-Hero, Taylor Swift. C, Easy on Me, Adele. Or D, Break My Soul by Beyonce.
Randall.
This is such a Langston question that it's not going to be who I guess you would put. I'm going to go with A, As It Was, Harry Styles.
Okay. John.
I don't think I've seen one of these songs, but I'm gonna go D, Beyonce.
Yeah, he has cornered you. He got that one correct again. So we
yes, sir.
We had to do the last question just for fun. But yeah, Randall gets a W this week somehow, some way. I really thought you were gonna be down by this point. All right, Alex, last one.
Among those who qualify, this player has the worst 3-point shooting field goal percentage in the NBA. Name him. A, Jalen Noel, Minnesota. B, LeBron James, the LA Lakers. C, Russell Westbrook, the LA Lakers. Or D, Ja Morant, the Memphis Grizzlies.
All right, John, let's go out with a bang. Who you got?
I'm going Westbrook.
Westbrook. What you got, Randall?
It should be who has the worst 3-point field goal percentage in January 2023, and my answer would still be the same. I'm going with B, LeBron James.
The answer is A, Jalen Noel. You know I would not have an answer with LeBron.
And I know I knew I was getting that one wrong, but I like the fact that I answered B anyway.
I know you just wanted to say 6.
100%.
In other words, he threw the question knowing that he had the game.
Yeah, we had the W in the bag already. We weren't worried about getting the answer right.
Absolutely. Well, John, thanks for coming on, man. Best of luck to you guys and Charlotte Christian the rest of the year.
Hey, John, don't go telling your mom what I did to you. I don't want any text or phone calls about how I beat up on you on the game show, man.
I won't. I'll keep it quiet.
Thanks, buddy.
All right, man. Take care, John.
Yes, sir. Y'all do the same.
John Lash having a tremendous season for Charlotte Christian. All right, we're going to bring back in Gary, and I'm going to let Alex take over the show. We're going to talk about
Randall.
Girls.
Yes, sir.
Tell them you don't believe in that participation trophy stuff for these kids.
Oh, no. Not at all. I'm glad you understand, Gary.
The only way they get better is to lose a little bit.
Exactly.
No participation. My goodness, looks like we got Ladies Week this week. My goodness, looking at this schedule, let's just jump right into it.
Providence Day Cannon, always a good game. Jordan has been playing great for Providence Day. Samaya Suffer's been playing great for Cannon. I think, this is a game that I'm sure Lily Booker from Cannon always has circled on her schedule since she did go to Providence Day. So I look for her to be an X factor. She's extremely good on defense. She's probably going to be aggressive and get her hands on a bunch of basketballs. So I think, Friday night should be fun.
Now, the last comment I'll make here before we continue on with what we all know is what we've all been waiting for. We all saw how Chelsea was at the top of the segment there, so we know that Chelsea's world is upon us. But the last comment I'll make is that Ashe County at Watauga. Watauga always a team we have to pay attention to at the 4A level. Watauga had that big win over Myers Park earlier this year, so always a tough battle right there, tied for second place in conference with Ashe and Watauga going at it. So we'll keep an eye on that one Tuesday night as well. But in the meantime, it's Chelsea's world. We're all living in it, and we're happy to live in it. So, Chelsea, talk to us a little bit. What you got this week?
So this week I interviewed Farmville Central senior Josh Short, who has been having a tremendous senior year, which, Rick can absolutely elaborate on. And he's really just talking about his path to his revenge championship that he's shooting for this year.
Well, it has been a long journey, a long, successful journey for Mr. Short, which is not quite done yet. So let's take it away.
This week, I'm interviewing class of 2023, Josh Short from Farmville Central. So, Josh, just a few weeks ago, you guys played in the John Wall Holiday Tournament at Broughton High School, and you had an incredible performance. Talk about what those games mean to you and playing in the tournament.
Those games mean a lot. It's some of the top in the country. And, we proved that we go out there and play against not just top teams in the state, but some of the top guys. We played against a couple 5 stars, 4 stars. And, we proved that some of us need to be ranked and should get the exposure that they do.
Absolutely. And currently, Farmville is 5-0, 13-1 with all games. Talk about what it means to start off the season with all these early wins.
It feels good. Like in the conference, teams come out, they try to take me out the game. So I just get my teammates involved. They play good, make shots, and at the end, we just come out with a W.
Absolutely. And Farmville has always been known for the high-level basketball they have. Talk about how that culture is built and under Coach Williford's coaching.
Really, we all started out playing with each other in middle school, and we played together on the same AAU teams before I had left to go play on the circuit. And, it really just starts in practice, competing against each other. We go at each other and just translate to the game.
And, Ja, this is your senior year, and you've had so much success the past year, a few state championships. But do you have any more remaining goals?
Not really. Recently, I just broke the 1,000-point record. So nothing really. Win a state championship again. Get most player.
And Ja, you recently committed and signed to New Orleans. Talk about what you look forward to over there.
When I went on a visit down there, I just built the bond with the coaches. Some of the teammates, I went out to eat with them and stuff. And after the visit, their coach had came back down here to see me. And one day was recruiting me. I think they had watched 73 hours of my games and stuff. And they compared my clips to their players. And, it was just the same.
Absolutely. And Ja, speaking again of your senior year, what has been your favorite memory with the Farmville program?
Probably playing in the John Wall, playing against some of the top prospects, proving what I could do against them.
And do you have any message to anyone watching that you want to give about Farmville in the program?
We want to come back and get our revenge from the state championship last year. We returned every player except for 2. One of them was injured last year. So me and my guys, we're on a revenge tour.
I like that. I look forward to it. Well, thank you so much for hopping on, and congrats on your commitment.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right. Well, here we are. Now, I'm going to let Rick talk a little bit about Josh Short, just the latest in a line of tremendously talented student athletes come out of Farmville Central High. We could go all the way back to Jarvis Lang in the 20th century, who went on to Charlotte. So we could talk about a number of things there. But Rick, talk to us a little bit. We mentioned a little bit about the interesting dynamic of players who come out of Eastern North Carolina last week. What is it that you can tell us more about Josh Short, why he might be overlooked in North Carolina, and what North Carolina schools are missing here?
Well, the one thing about Jai, I think he's one of the better players in the state of North Carolina for his class. And like we discussed previously, I don't understand why a kid like Josh Short, who's played at Farmville Central, he's been to 3 straight state championships already. The main thing is Josh Short is a winner, on and off the court. So, you sort of look at it from my perspective. Sometimes I get complex, why is it more regional or state schools in North Carolina recruiting this young man? I do know he had an offer from ECU by the previous staff, but when the new staff came in, they didn't extend the offer. So you sort of scratch your head a little bit. You sit there and go I lived in Louisiana for a little bit. I understand the allure to New Orleans, but you're sitting there going like a player like this, you sort of hate to see that leaves the state.
Alex, I think one of the reasons is the transfer portal. I'm seeing it more and more often in football, girls basketball, boys basketball. It's the transfer portal. Teams or schools, they want instant gratification.
Right.
They'd rather have a college transfer who has a transcript, has college film, as opposed to a high school player who they have to project how well they're going to do at the next level.
Gary, that's a very good point. And we have our own scouting service, and you'll be surprised at the number of college coaches that will call us and ask us not about seniors, but they'll ask, do you have any idea who's going to be putting their name in the transfer portal? But, a lot of these college coaches, they're even putting people in their staff just to look at players that might be in the transfer portal, because in their words, they would rather get a kid who's 21 years old, who's more developed than a young man who might be 17 or 18 coming out of high school. On the flip side, what happens on the portal is you have a lot of young players that may play at a higher level that's not getting the playing time that they think they deserve. They will transfer down. So you got a lot of the low to mid-major schools that will basically look for those type of players. On the flip side, you'll have a lot of young players that may go to a level like a low to mid-major. They have an outstanding year. They make all conference, and they'll transfer up. Give you a good case in point. Last year, Wofford had 3 players that made all freshman team. What happened to all 3 freshmen?
They all left.
Yeah.
Transferred.
So, it's a situation, like a Josh Short, I wouldn't be surprised that, he goes to New Orleans, have a great freshman year. And after having a great freshman year, guess what's going to happen? He's probably going to be attracting a lot of the schools from this area and schools that might be above the level of, say, at New Orleans.
And they're going to sell him on coming back and playing at home where his family can watch him play, when they can sell him on that right now.
I'm going to give you a good case in point. There was a player from the Charlotte area that played at Southview Christian, Michael Hamilton. 6'11", 7 foot. We promoted this young man, till the cows come home. He went to Marshall. He's a freshman at Marshall, having a great year. Now they're even talking about this kid, young man, may have NBA potential. So there's a situation where he's having a great freshman year, but guess what's going to happen? The schools that didn't think he was good enough as a senior coming out of high school, they're going to be beating his doors down probably at the end of this season.
Well, I want to make one thing clear right now about these people getting out of state. Everybody needs to listen right now, specifically North Carolina State and North Carolina. If you let Chelsea Sipple get out of this state, then we know that you haven't done your homework, because that's going to be something we discuss on this show. If she gets out of this state, somebody missed the boat. So that being said, until that day comes and decision day comes there, which is one of the biggest college commitments of this year. Chelsea, how can people get in touch with you to be featured in Chelsea's World?
To be featured on Chelsea's World, my Twitter and Instagram is at Chelsea Sipple. You can hit my DMs, and we can get started with the Zoom call and get you featured on Talking Preps MC.
There you have it. NC State and UNC. Like I said, we have to avert another travesty and keep the best and brightest in our state.
And you heard it here first. Chelsea is a 5-star prospect.
That's right.
I know.
All right. Well, let's talk about some 5-star boys games of the week. I mean, we're going to have a hard time topping. Like I said, it's not ladies' night. It's ladies' week. So we're going to have a hard time topping that. But let's talk a little bit about these games.
The other game that's going to be really intriguing in the greater metro is the Lake Norman Morsel game. But that's the Battle of the Lake. Lake Norman is a team that I think is going to be a very dangerous team down the road. They featured Cole Calloway, who's featured in the photo there. But they do have some very good young talent. 6'9" Trent Steinauer was injured early in the year. He just came back a couple of weeks ago. He's making a big difference. So they got a young team that they have 2 really good sophomores and a freshman. I think that's a team that you have to look out for in the playoffs and also for next year.
All right, there you heard it right there from Rick Lewis, the ultimate high school basketball guru in this state. So let's just move on here and we'll keep talking, come back on the backside, and we'll go to Rick's picks.
Welcome. This is our first edition of Rick's Picks. We are going to talk to the guru, Rick Lewis himself, about some of the outstanding performers in the area over the past week. He has picked 5 of them. And Coach Lewis, let's get started.
Well, let's start with the game of the game of the year, and probably one of the best games in the last 5 years, in the Carmel Christian game against Myers Park last night. I think that was a great game for the city of Charlotte, and basically it was a game of, as I said in our group text, it was big boy basketball between Myers Park and Carmel Christian. And basically, you have the best private school team going up against the best public school team in the state. And, the thing about Carmel Christian, they led the entire first half. Myers Park went on a run in the third quarter. Carmel was down by 8 points, and it looked like, Myers Park was going to take the win. And, as a collective group, Carmel came back, and, you can mention so many different players. You got, Jaden Mustaf stepped up, Bryce Cash, Kamani Wirt stepped up. I think they were the main 3 guys for Carmel, but it was a collective team win. And I think it was, like I said, it was one of the biggest games in the state in the last 5 years. It was an overflowed, sold out crowd. And I think this is what the city of Charlotte, wants. And I think Carmel Christian as a collective group is one of my Rick's picks for this week as far as, an outstanding performance.
100%. It was a great basketball game. Who else we got on this list, Coach Rick?
Well, I have Dallas Gardner, 6'3" senior, going to UNC Pembroke. 43 points against Cannon on Friday night. It was a close game. Charlotte Country Day took the lead in the fourth quarter, and Cannon came back. But to have 43 points and 18 in the fourth quarter speaks volume on Dallas Gardner and the type of years he's had with Charlotte Country Day.
Next up, I'm guessing we got Jordan Neville from East Meck. I had not seen him play this year until yesterday, and I tell you what, he didn't disappoint. We got to see him and Austin Schwartz go in a battle and a really good basketball game yesterday afternoon. I was very impressed with how he shot the ball, coming off pin downs, coming off flare screens. They do a really good job of running action to get him open looks, and he knocks them down.
Yeah, and he also has a nice little step back. The southpaw, the lefty, on Friday night against Providence had 42 points. You look at a team like East Meck who's having a really good year, and it's refreshing to see that a team like East Meck can be competitive. And I think it sets the tone, and it basically sets the platform as we move on from this year to the next year. Let's get more of these nice public versus private school matchups, and let's see how they shake out.
I agree 100%. Nick Dorn of Chambers. Yesterday was my second time getting to see him. He didn't disappoint. A very, very good game by Chambers, giving Greensboro Day and Coach Freddie, all they can handle in an overtime loss. But tell us a little bit about Dorn.
Well, Nick is the younger brother of Torrin Dorn, who, played at Charlotte, went up to NC State and had a great year at NC State. Nick is 6'7". I think he's under the radar as well as far as his recruitment is concerned. They have played a very brutal schedule. I mean, you think about it, they came off an overtime loss to North Meck last Friday night, and then they're up against West Charlotte, who West Charlotte is still a very talented team. West Charlotte was ahead early. And, going into the second quarter, Nick Dorn went 6 for 6 from the 3-point line. And basically, enabled Chambers to come away with the win. You know, having 28 points, going 7 from 9 from the 3-point line is pretty impressive.
I 100% agree with that. And last but not least, our actual Rick pick for this week. Young man, 8 3-pointers this week, shooting the lights out. Mr. DJ Boy himself. DJ, how you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
Well, I mean, I think, first of all, congratulations on a great week. When you talk about, making 8 threes in the game, I think my first question is just how big did that basket look the other night?
It was huge. I got to give all the credit to my teammates. They was finding me when I was open. And once I knocked the first couple down, they kept giving it to me. So I didn't know the choice.
Well, DJ, in this particular game, coming into it, I put on social media, Lake Norman was probably the favorite. That they were undefeated in league play, and Cox Mill was 3-3. This was a must-win situation for Cox Mill if you guys want to contend for the conference regular season championship. I watched the game on the NFHS network, and you were phenomenal, especially in the first half. But 8 3-pointers and a game high 28 points, I believe. But I thought you were phenomenal, and I think you were instrumental in enabling Cox Mill to win that game over a very talented Lake Norman team.
Good.
DJ, I mean,
Yeah.
I think, the big thing coming in the Friday night was I think you guys know, like, you had to protect home court, and you just knew how important that game was. Can you talk a little bit about, like, your mentality and your teammates' mentality going into that game?
Yeah, we knew we had to come in and win the game. It was, we knew it was going to be tough. So, we had to come in practice all week and be consistent and make sure we locked in on what Coach had us doing before the game, and make sure we played defense and, make sure we locked in and won the game.
DJ, you guys were up big in the first half, and I think at one time you led by as many as 15 points. And then Lake Norman made a patented run, and they took the lead. What was going through your mind at that point in time?
Pretty much, I was just trying to make sure I kept the team on track. We got away from what we do and how we play. I just had to make sure we got back to that and got the lead back and to win the game in the fourth.
Yeah, and I misspoke earlier. You had 38 points, not 28 points, and 8 threes, and you went 12 for 12 from the free throw line down the stretch and sealed the victory for Cox Mill. Congratulations.
Thank you.
DJ, last but not least, I think the most important question is, when you scored 38, what was the pregame meal before you hit the floor Friday night?
I think we had subs before that game.
Well, you might want to make sure Coach runs that one back. Outstanding job the other night, man. Way to shoot the basketball, and congratulations on a big win.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us for Rick's Picks. And if you want to be one of the gurus, Rick's Picks, you can reach out to him on social media at Coach Rick 50 at Coach _ Rick 57 on Twitter and Instagram, Coach.
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we'll see you next week.
All right, so now it's time for Coach versus Coach. This is between Gary and Randall. We got 3 big topics to discuss this week. Let's get started. All right, so Gary, I'll start with you, and then Randall, you'll follow. So first, are high schools playing too many nights, and should we go back to mostly the Tuesday, Friday schedule?
I'm going to say yes, and I'm going to say this from an academic standpoint, not from a basketball. To have kids out on back-to-back nights, we know that most boys' games are preceded by a girl game, sometimes even JV games, and you're looking at kids, especially the away team, getting home after 10 o'clock at night. And, those kids still have to do studies. and expected to be a student and then be back in the classroom at 7:15 the next morning. So from an academic standpoint, I'm going to say yes. I know sometimes it's necessary. Usually you have the situations where you have 3 games in a week, in the months of January or February, because you ran into games getting postponed because of weather and you had to make up games before the season ended. But just to schedule 2-3 games or 3 games a week, having games on a Monday or a Wednesday or a Thursday, which is not customary. I worry about student athletes having to be out on back-to-back nights academically. That's the only problem I have with games not being on the traditional Tuesday and Friday nights.
For sure, Randall.
I mean, I agree with you to some extent. I just feel like we should play more games on Saturdays. I think that in those weeks where you have 3 games in a week, like let's go Tuesday, Friday, Saturday. I think that way you're not taking a kid away from their academics. You're not messing with school. It doesn't really change anything. You just got to make sure that there's nothing going on in those gyms. But I think in weeks where we have to play 3 games, I think a Tuesday, Friday, Saturday format is better served for this.
And I like that idea, Randall. The only problem I would have with Saturday is it's going to be hard finding officials every Saturday because many of those guys work college games too.
Yeah, and I know you can't do it every week, but I feel like there are certain weeks where a team might have 3 games. But I get what you're saying. Every week somebody's going to have a third game. That's true too.
Absolutely. And our next topic is, should CMS relax to allow public school to play private schools during the regular season?
100%. There's no question. Everybody should be able to play everybody. And I know you're going to deal with these, bigger schools, smaller schools. But I think when it comes to playing basketball, it's coming to play basketball. And it's like Alex said earlier, like if a school has 100 kids, they might have 10 or 12 that can really play. I don't think you penalize kids. And I think that it hurts more so than helps when you talk about these public-private schools. But I'm sure that, people like Coach Rick, they don't mind it because, it allows him to put on great events like he did yesterday.
Gary.
Yeah, I think they've already begun to relax it, especially in basketball. You've always been able to do it in holiday tournaments. But it's where it's been a problem is football. And that goes back to a numbers thing. And the rule was made probably back in the 80s when they were worried about private schools taking students away from public schools. But most of the private schools now follow basically the same rules as the public schools as far as 4 years of eligibility and not allowing reclassing. So I think if it's a private school that doesn't have reclassing, then there's nothing wrong with it.
For sure. And now that conference tournaments are about to come up, should CMS go back to having tournament finals all at one site?
Yes. Yes. 1,000 times yes. When I was a head coach at Advance, they used to have them all out at Bojangles, call it Championship Friday. And that was the greatest atmosphere. You would have 6,000, 7,000 people out there. And it gave the kids from other conferences a chance to see people that they don't actually get to see during the regular season or who they don't get to play against. It was a big time atmosphere. The kids loved it. The parents loved it. I wish they would go back. I've already sent a proposal to Langston on how to do it. It's just a matter of them wanting to do it. For CMS, say, hey, let's go. You got the arena. You can go right back out to Bojangles. I'm sure they'd be happy to have it. Yes, they need to go back to that. Every kid should experience that.
Randall.
I 100% agree, and we don't agree often, me and Coach Richmond, but I do agree that this is one of the things where it should be made a big event. I'm a big proponent of the conference tournament, and I went to a lot of conference tournaments last year, and I saw some amazing basketball. And to take that amazing basketball and put it all under one roof, all in one venue, allow kids that don't get a lot of lights on them to play in a place like that with a lot of people in a packed house, I think it'd be, everybody wins.
Absolutely. Chelsea, I want to turn that question back on you. What do you think as a student? Do you think it's cool to have everybody all together at once, or one tournament over here, one tournament over here, one tournament in third place?
I think all together at once. You know, I like the environment of having a packed gym. You know, everybody get to see the teams they don't usually get to see. And, you know, just in the comparison of the Charlotte area, I'd love to have the same thing over here in Raleigh.
Yeah, I think one of the best things Vicky Hamilton ever did was move that tournament. At first, they had UNC Charlotte area, if you recall.
Mhm.
Then they moved it to Bojangles. I think that was a great idea. It was something the kids look forward to. And I used to always tell Vicky, I said, why don't you guys honor the all-conference teams right before these games start?
Yeah, I think I liked it so much, Langston, because I got to pick up a lot of trophies in Bojangles.
There you go. you did do a lot of winning. I also want to go back to the game night thing. Randall had a really good idea about Saturdays. It's kind of the same thing. If CMS had like a super Saturday where they had like multiple games, maybe at one site on a Saturday, that might be easier for officials, and they would also create that stage. What Rick Lewis does so well is create that stage for kids to play on. He brings all these teams to one stage, and I'm giving away Rick's secret. He brings all these teams to one stage and gives them the stage with all the best camera people and all the best reporters, and the TV people come because it's easy, because it's like going to a Nike event in the summer. You can see everybody in one place versus going to 38 places.
And Langston, I want to add one more thing to it. College coaches love it too, because we had over a dozen college coaches in attendance yesterday, and every one of them came up and said, thanks for the event, because we had the opportunity to come in here and watch multiple games at one time.
Yeah. Alex, you want to jump in?
Yes. I like what everyone's saying here, and I'm all about the environment and the atmosphere, and want all of those things, and applaud everyone who can make these things happen. And we all know Rick Lewis does a tremendous job, but we're in a situation we cannot logistically, a Tuesday, Friday, Saturday paradigm will not work.
No, nobody's saying every Saturday.
No, I'm
saying once, maybe once a month, a super Saturday.
Yeah, I'm speaking as an athletics administrator. We cannot staff that many games from a safety perspective and from a moving pieces perspective on that kind of a basis.
Alex, this is my schedule for CMS teams this week. There's games every week, every day of the week. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday this week. They're playing too many. To me, they're playing too many nights. I missed the days of Tuesday, Friday. I miss them.
I agree totally, and that's what we just have to keep in mind from a staffing perspective. It cannot be done. You realize
it's being done.
If you're playing every night, you can find a Saturday a month to staff enough.
I'm saying if you have a super Saturday and you have like multiple games, you have a Rick Lewis event in CMS like once a month. And the schools make more money. There's more attention. They get that stage. The one thing that the public schools say, we want to play on those stages like the private schools. I hear it all the time.
Okay, I like that. So good. I like that. But answer this question for me. Yeah. All right, so let's pick a Saturday. Let's do it. Who is in charge of that event? Who is the administrator? When the rubber
if it's CMS, you have a rotating group of them. Maybe 3 this time, 3 the next time, 3 the third time. You rotate them.
You still have in the public schools, they're limited to 24 games in a regular season, so it doesn't really matter in that perspective. They're only playing 24 games between November and March. You're only talking about a few certain weeks for these guys that are student athletes. But at the same time, you know, and I spoke to several public school coaches this last weekend, and their number one thing that they mentioned to me was, we wish we could play the same number of games as the private school teams, because, you know, public school coaches worry about losing kids to the private school sector or to the non-association teams or independent teams. Mm-hmm. You got to give the public school teams a level playing field. To me, the one thing that we've been trying to do is provide a platform like we did this weekend where public and private schools can play together, but also you can also, like, for example, with the public schools, you can use the argument with your young prospects. You don't need to go anywhere else. We're going to give you the same platform that a private school or non-association team will give you.
That's
but you're going to play in front of a bigger crowd. I think, the opportunity for young student athletes to play in front of thousands of fans is something that will carry on for the rest of their lives. Now, I'm looking at it from the second part of the equation, Alex. I'm looking at it on the student athlete. I'm looking at it from the athlete's perspective more, than the student. But, I do think there's some validity that if we make it a level playing field, and I think Gary made a good point earlier, most private schools nowadays don't allow reclassing. So, one of the arguments that public schools had it previously was, we don't want to play private schools. They'll take our kids, plus they'll reclass. Very few people in the private school sector today are reclassing kids.
Yeah.
So I think, we want to give a level playing field, but at the same time, if we can create the environment for public schools like we did this last weekend, I guarantee if you ask the coach from Myers Park, Chambers, East Meck, all those public schools that played in the event, they love the idea.
And I'd rather kids play that third game in a week on a Saturday, like Randall said, than on a school night.
I agree with you. Would it be better to abolish the conference tournament and give everybody 3 more games?
Yes.
Because in the conference tournament, if you lose in the first round, you don't get those extra 2 games.
Get the conference tournament
We're not doing this tonight. We can have the conference tournament. We had this argument last year, and you were wrong.
I'm not wrong.
The conference tournament is a
private
staple,
schools.
and
Private
it gives everybody the
5
same
more
chance.
games than public schools.
Oh my God!
5 more games in less time. In 3 weeks, in 2 weeks, less time.
No.
Well, let's do this. Let's, for the student athlete part, you're worried about missing games for academic purposes. Just have the rule. You can play 3 games a week, but one of those 3 games has to be on a Saturday.
Yeah. And that rule is in place. That rule effectively is in place right now.
That rule is in place for 4 games in a week.
Yeah.
Here's the other problem. But still, I believe and I'm for all of these things right here. But I'm telling you, from an athletics administrator's perspective, Saturday staffing is going to be a challenge. You still have the reality. You have a principal, you have 4 or 5 assistant principals, you have 1 athletic director, and you have maybe an assistant athletic director. Who is responsible,
Alex,
when it all comes down to it?
I hear what you're saying, but every week this season, there have been multiple games involving public school teams on Saturday. Every week this season in Charlotte area. I can't speak to Raleigh, but in Charlotte area, every week this season, there have been multiple public school games on Saturdays. I mean,
I can speak from having had to handle staffing details for years.
Yeah.
But Gary, on the flip side of that is usually if a game is on a Saturday, the school's going to make money off the revenue off the gate, which they need for the athletic department.
Yeah.
I don't see that would be a negative. I think that would be a positive. I'm on the perspective of, like, for example, like I said, I'm on the event operator side of it. And I know what some of the public schools have expressed, to me as far as their concerns. I just think the fact that public schools can offer so much, basically, if I'm a high school coach at the public school level, and I'm going to say at Myers Park, I'm going to sit there and look at my 3 guys who are high major guys going, why in the world would you want to go anywhere else when you can play at Myers Park? You're going to be played in front of a sold out crowd of 2,000 people at home or close to it. And, I read an interesting tweet from Eric Balsey from 247. And he was making the point that all these high level events, these national events that these non-association independent schools are going to, they're traveling halfway across the country to play in front of empty nobody. So you're traveling halfway across the country to play in front of 200 people. Well, if I'm a high school coach, I'm going to use that argument saying, why are you doing that when you can play here for your hometown in front of 1,000, 1,500 fans, and you're going to get the publicity that you would want? Because when you go outside the state, you're out of sight, out of mind as far as media is concerned.
No,
that's my 2 cents.
That's very true. I think those are all good points. But the biggest point I hear from public schools, and you guys are talking about it, we don't get enough games. Do away with the conference tournament, that 24 goes to 27. Now you within 3 games of private schools. That's all I'm saying.
But look, I'll give you another point. I reached out to Dwayne Lewis at North Mech, and I go, love to have you. I sent him a video of the crowd at Carmel.
Yeah.
Love to have North Mech in the event for next year. Oh, our schedule's already done. Well, what about the next year and the next year?
Can't be done that far out.
Yeah, I'm just saying. But the thing about it is the kids like at North Mech, I guarantee if they saw the game that we had yesterday at Carmel, at Myers Park, they would salivate at the opportunity to play in front of 1,500 people, oversold capacity crowd. They would love it.
That game last night is going to be something that those kids talk about in the barbershop.
The rest of their lives.
30 years from now, they'll say, I played in that game. Because I hear those conversations even now. But it's time to put the big star of the show in this one shot.
Is Sam on here?
No, we got
Oh,
well, that's what he uses.
You know, the funny is when he said the big star, I was like, wait, I'm not a Cowboys fan.
Gary gave up on the Cowboys. He's a 49er fan.
It's that time of year again. You know, you get to conference season. As a player, you got to take care of your body. You got to make sure you hydrate. You got to make sure you stretch. You got to make sure that you're well rested. I think that in watching a lot of games this weekend on both the boys and girls side, I saw the wear and tear starting to get to some players now. Players just being tired from playing a lot of minutes. And, you know, sometimes when you have to wear that hat of, you know, being one of the stars on the team, you got to play a lot of minutes. You got to make sure that you're taking care of your body. So I think that's my big takeaway from this week is just be mentally, physically ready to play each and every night. But a lot of that goes into taking care of your body and the work that you do before games and after games, you know, rolling, stretching, you know, whatever the case may be, but drinking a lot of water, making sure you're hydrated because, you know, when I talked to several players who played in that Myers Park Carmel game yesterday, that was the big thing that they told me is that they, you know, it was so hot in there and that they were dehydrated and we had kids catching cramps, you know, after the game when they went out to go get something to eat. So understand the importance of not only being in shape, but understand the importance of taking care of your body as well.
Take care of your body. Go find some coconut and crack it open. Get some H320. Look that up. All right. This is another great episode. Rick put in the chat that we had a nice, smooth show today. And Grice, it's 1 hour and 20 minutes, and I am done. I'm not going no 2 hours like we do in the fall with y'all. Gary knows what I'm talking about. Alex knows what I'm talking about. So we're up out of here. That's Randall Clark, the best trainer I know. That's Gary Richard, my good friend. That's Chelsea Simple, who's going to Chapel Hill or Georgia or South Carolina or
we got a few options.
Charleston or all these places. So Rick Lewis, the guru, the #1 voice of high school basketball, Alex Baskin-Cherry, and I'm Langston, and we are Talking Prep.